Hello, everyone. Yeah, people are still coming in, but it's okay. I can start. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. Hi. So my name is Ahmad Bamieh, and I've been in software development for over a decade right now. And I've been in building data pipelines and involved in data in all ways for about 7 years so far. And yeah, I'm going to start my talk with a little rant about how people and organizations approach turning their data into information. And usually, the approach is, let's just buy a BI tool, and the BI tool will enable us to make analysis and all this sort of cool things that we can do with data. But usually what happens is they buy this solution, and it doesn't solve their problems. But the dashboards look great. They buy this BI tool like Tableau or Kibana or Power BI, and yet they basically they buy this product and they can't use it for some reason. And this is what the topic of my talk is, how to get past that. Yeah, so basically the BI tool will not solve your problems in terms of data pipelines and data services. Usually the sales pitch is, okay, if you gather all your data in one place, then you will be able to do all this cool stuff. And the sales pitch doesn't come with the refinement of data. It's like a non-issue, although it is the issue. So basically, how it goes is the business, they say, okay, let's gather all the data from data engineering or from the website or from the engineering team. And what happened is the business isn't clear about what information and what is informational for them. And what happens is that it's the data engineers are the chefs, but they don't know what to cook. They have all the raw ingredients. So as a business, they have to choose what is informational for them, which is in this metaphor, they have to choose the dish or what they want to eat. So several years ago, one of the co-founders of a startup, basically he was doing a talk about how they use their data to make informative decisions and how they use the data and very cool stuff. So I was super excited, and I actually joined that startup. But when I joined, the reality was super different from my expectations. And it was a lot of manual reports and asking people to grab data from different places. There wasn't really a process around it. And it's just foreshadowing of what's going to happen is that people will ditch using data to make information to begin with. So why does that happen? Well, in my opinion, it's two things. The first thing is solution architecture. So solution architecture is basically, we find a solution, like I said, like a BI tool, and then we invest as an organization. We invest in it to make it happen. We see the dashboards. We see, okay, all the data that we can get out of it. But after we buy this solution, we're unable to use it properly, and eventually, some companies even go in a loop of buying another one, or building a custom solution that is doing the same thing. And why is this happening is because these demos happen with static data, and static data is usually clean. It's tailored towards this presentation, and it's very easy to see and reason. The dashboards look easy and nice. But in the real world, piping the data into the BI solution is the problem. Basically, you have all these different data sources. The data is not, it's dirty data. It's not, there's duplications, there's strings, integers, all these different data types that you have to deal with. And then you have to silo the data and make sure that the data is telling the truth, how you're, how you're dealing with the scalability issues, the government issues of the data. The second part of why this is happening usually is data architecture problem. So how you're architecting the data is basically how you're gathering requirements. And there's two ways to gather requirements. The first one is top-down. So basically, the business says, OK, we want these metrics. We want to measure 1, 2, 3. And then the engineers or data scientists, depends on the company, they start measuring these metrics and building these dashboards. The other way around is bottom-down or bottom-up. So basically, it's the business not specifying what they want, and then the engineers will just gather all what they can or what they think makes sense, and then the business will try to make sense of the data that is coming. And usually, if there's no real data strategy for the company, this is what happens, which leads to problems like data hoarding, collecting data that is irrelevant, or the data that you have doesn't answer what you want. So who here knows about Elasticsearch? Cool, a few hands. Okay. So I worked with Elastic, the company behind Elasticsearch, for over 3 years now. And I built their data pipeline, their telemetry solution from A to Z. And I kind of got obsessed with the details of it. So I built the tools, the telemetry tools to gather this data from our platforms, all the way to the BI tools and the data pipeline itself. And I kind of got in touch with the legal team for which data we can gather, with the product team about how they're going to use the data that we gather, and with the development teams about what to gather and how to gather it, all these details. So I was with this 3-year experience, I was able to basically see the pipeline from the beginning of it till the end of it. And yeah, one tool that I really found useful when I'm talking with different people is the data maturity graph. So there's very if you look up the term data maturity graph, you'll see many variations of this one. This one I came up with based on what I feel is correct based on my experience working with clients and working with Elastic. So basically, it's a progression of how you're dealing with data, how you're turning data into information that is useful, which is the maturity metric, and the capabilities is what you can do with data. So the more mature the more you can basically transform this data and make use of it, the more capabilities you can unlock for your team or your company. And the stages, in general, they go from data unaware, where you have manual reports, to data informed, and all the way to data driven. And basically, between them is you can tell what happened, then you can have some forecasting about what's going to happen. And of course, this is it's not a graph. You can have it for the whole company, but usually every team has their own data maturity graph, and they fall on different levels on it. It's just easy to reason about for people to look at it and to have a conversation around it, but it's not a linear graph. You can have some components across the whole curve. The other thing which I tried to highlight, which I see lots of clients that I work with, is that they try to go for the BI tool, as I said, something like Tableau or Power BI. And though it's only roughly, this is a number I come up with, but basically it's around 20% of the whole equation. The rest of the equation is actually how to handle data, the data management, data warehousing, how you're gathering this data, and how people are governing it and looking at it. So basically, if you go and solve this 20%, and you don't have the 80% part figured out, you're going to just stay in the same loop of being unable to utilize the data. The other part is it's good for the business side of the company, or a team lead in the team, to understand what gaps they have to get their data management solution working. And some companies have gaps in their development, so they need probably to hire or bring in contractors or whatever to develop actually the data pipeline and build. Basically, the data pipeline is how to gather the information from the different systems and transform it in a way to put it in a united data warehouse. And then the other side, which is the discovery side, is actually figuring out what's the business need that we want, what are we trying to solve here, and then what's the data strategy and what's the solution architecture that we want. So this graph is, I took it from a website that exactly does this, and I find it really cool and useful. I share it with lots of people. Basically, sometimes you need a full custom solution, the whole thing from A to Z. So you need a consultant to figure out the business needs with you, all the way to development of the solution or like the different stack that you're gonna buy. Some people just need to extend their team or just need a managed team to basically figure out like the data pipeline part. Yeah, so I'm gonna share a little story with you about a client I had for over 5 years. So this client is in finance, and initially we started, they were in the like data and aware part of the graph, you can say so. So usually they depended a lot of, they had a lot of manual reports, and they didn't really utilize their data. They didn't have like cross-team visibility over what's happening. It was very hard to like get any information they want from what's happening in the business. And usually if they want to, it's in the form of pulling out like data and assembling this manual report every once in a while. And 5 years down the line, at the moment we have, we're between like data-driven and data-savvy. And that basically means some information is collected automatically and some decisions are built on it also automatically. But also you can get like complete visibility over, or like almost complete visibility over the cross functions of the teams. And then you can have ad hoc reports without having to ask someone to do them. And of course with that, you can build a lot of new business ideas. You can codify or add rules about like how you're calculating commissions, for example, all of that. You don't need someone to do them manually. So of course, every data journey for every company is different. And I know that from experience. There's no single like answer, or people wouldn't need that part, like the consultation part, to do this. But usually, like how I started with this company, for example, is to identify a single business pain. So it was, for example, that they have to report the GDPR report every day of what's happening in their business. And this is like a single problem that required like an integration with different systems. So this is the pain that they immediately had, and that is relatively easy to solve. And then the next step is to identify where they are in the data maturity graph. If they have like manual reports, they had a team where they collect the data manually every day and report it. So they know where they are on the data maturity graph, and as well they know where they're going. So they know, okay, if we have like an automated solution that will do X, Y, Z, then we will be on the next stage, and this will unlock these capabilities, and it will save us like this much money, for example, or save us from mistakes. Which is the next step. Okay, this makes sense. We know where we are. We know where we're going. Then we can build a strategy about how to get there. And yeah, as you can see, like none of it included like a BI tool on top of it to get this data to extract the rows and columns, although it's one of the functions that you need. You need like some dashboard to see the reports and all of this, but it's not part of the solution. It's only a small part of it. Usually to identify a business pain, you start with like asking questions to trigger a conversation. So it's not like a formula that you get, but usually you ask like things like, what's your business focus at the moment? Where do you see yourself in the future? And then like, what are the key issues that you face today? And you try to understand like what each function in the business is doing and how they can improve it. And to understand what's now and what's next, it's the same graphs that I shared before. Basically, just looking at the data maturity graph, having an understanding where they are, and then it's very clear, okay, if we want to be, for the GDPR example, to be specific, you don't need to be like data-driven or have like machine learning, of course. You just need like very basic reporting analytics that is going. This way you can understand, okay, lots of people, lots of like CEOs in small companies, for example, they want like to have machine learning and they want to have AI on top of their data. But it's not usually like what you want or what you want to aim for at this moment. Like if you're still in the very early stages of your data journey, it might make sense to do other things that will give you like benefits earlier. So usually, like, where do you start if you have an organization or you're working with a team and you want to start using the capabilities more of your data? Usually, like, my recommendation or like the best approach I found so far is to start with something that is very low effort. and doesn't require like a huge investment. So usually, it depends on the topography of the team and like if you have an IT department, for example, or not, all of this stuff. But usually, if you have like an IT department or engineering team and you have the business side, it makes sense just to have like a 3-day workshop, for example, to have these two teams to talk and to answer questions like what's their pain, how they're using the data, how they want to utilize the data. And usually this like conversation, although it seems simple, it's the beginning of building a data strategy, not just like having the business being frustrated with how the decisions are being made and buying a BI tool, for example. Yeah, that's basically all.